Hello, Booktube, with my scenic backdrop. Oh, I'm in the dog's chair, and she's wondering what the heck I'm doing. With my scenic backdrop of all my bike stuff drying, which was good because I'll need it to get wet again later today for heading to work. I figured I'd do my final Friday reads because Vlogmas has been a chance to have experiments, and one of those experiments has been doing the Friday reads, and would I just be repeating myself each week? So let's repeat myself. I'm not even going to put it up. On my Kindle here, I've got Thomas Cromwell, Revolutionary Life, which I'm continuing through as I was talking with Alba over at Seriela. It's definitely a book that is a blizzard of information. Lots of this paper, that paper. Strangely enough, Thomas Cromwell himself is strangely absent in the book, which I can see is why is probably going to make has made for fertile ground for Hilary Mantel, and I'm probably going to actually, as always, I'm going to cheat and start the Cromwellathon earlier. That's the Cromwellathon that's been hosted by Jason over at Old Blues Chapter and Verse. He's starting in January. I'm probably going to start as quickly as possible, especially since both my Kindle, which has the Diarmaid MacCulloch's Thomas Cromwell on it, they both. It's like the very early part of Thomas Cromwell's life gets squished in here because this book starts at his early life and then immediately kind of goes to when he actually pops up on the scene, which is what his biography does as well. So that's where I am with that. I think probably maybe it'll leaven it because Mantel will sort of give us an imagined Thomas Cromwell, which seems to be, at least so far in this book, is being teased out from kind of scant information. I'm really happy to have someone like MacCulloch doing a very kind of thorough job of showing the reader what the evidence is and giving his interpretation to it. Be interesting to see what Mantel's interpretation of that scant information is as well. And then we go on to my old books with grandpas that have problematic ideas, but I one day will be a grandpa with problematic ideas as well. All my meat eating, I'm sure, will be seen as savagery for later generations. We've got Captain's Courageous, which is it's one of these books. It's a sea romance. It's the whole idea of you have this kind of rotten youth, Harvey Cheney, like Dick. It's like this is what would have happened to Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney never went to sea. Harvey Cheney, he got knocked overboard of his liner as a young boy and got sent off to sea to the Grand Banks, where he's quickly kind of assimilated himself into this culture of fishers. He's on the schooner. I've learned schooner now, of the here we are. It's got like a lot of the great tropes. So there's the Jonah, the idea of bad luck, and that bad luck kind of bringing people on. Got my Airedale. Actually, everybody's decided to have breakfast around me. So all that munching sound, sorry, that's not me eating. That's my dog's eating, which I'm sure is going to trigger lots of people. But it's got the idea of the Jonah, which, if you've seen the movie Master and Commander, there was one of the officers on there got considered a Jonah and was bullied, and it ended badly for him. And in this book, there's actually a whole ship which is basically a Jonah, the Abisha, which it's like it's this terrible ship that kind of lurching over the thing. It's filthy. It's like everybody on board apparently seems to be drunk. They yell that there's bad weather coming, and then they go off this way, and then there's like a brief thing of sunshine, and then there's basically they go down in a swell and they just never come up, and that's it. They just get swallowed whole because they didn't maintain their ship properly. So be that a lesson. Don't go out drunk on the seas, boys, and always make sure you pump your oakum or something like that. It's actually Kipling does a really great job of sort of just immersing yourself in this culture of cod, old style kind of cod fishery. And half the stuff I don't understand, but it's like I really feel it is kind of authentic, even if maybe it isn't. Maybe if you're an old salt, we'll have to check with Steve Donoghue and Mark Richardson of the old salts out there and see how Kipling does. But I'm quite enjoying it on that one. There is yeah, there is racist stuff in here. The N word is dropped quite a few times, and there's a cook character who is sort of your magic. It's the magic Negro, I believe, is how it is described. That's not me using just as sort of a that kind of a character. You sort of have to take the stuff that you kind of cringe at nowadays with the good stuff. I don't want to discard Kipling. Kipling of the Empire and stuff like that. He's an amazing writer. It's reading this book. It's like it's published in 1897, but it's like it's got life to it. It's alive. It's one of these books where you hit authors like this and they're alive. Hello, I'm just gonna quickly doing my reads thing, and then I'll get to work. We've got to get everything cleaned up here for cleaned up. So I will rush through the rest of this because we're having relatives arrive, and I need to clean and have food and such like that. The last book I'll go with is Cousin Pons. Pons is this glutton. He's glutton for food. He's also a glutton. He loves beautiful art, and he's collected tons of art. Unfortunately, that has brought, at this point in his life, all the vultures around him. And one of those vultures is Madame Cibot, the portress, basically the woman who kind of takes care of his lodgings and stuff like that, and indeed starts taking care of him. And Pons is ill, and she's taking care of him, but she's also kind of attracted to his wealth. And she decides to consult Madame Lafontaine about what are the auguries for this. This is the sorceress. This is the tarot card reader. And we have this bizarre chapter, the treatise on the occult sciences, where Balzac goes off on this whole thing of how, the occult, that actually is a science. And it's just like, well, other sciences were seen as ridiculous. And then he goes into this whole thing of how, yes, the occult, spiritual photography, and which is also nonsense bullshit that was been revealed to be all kind of hoaxes and fraudsters. But she goes through this whole thing of he goes through this whole thing of basically kind of sticking up for the occult scientists, which seems kind of bizarre for Balzac, who seems to be such, in some ways, very much an acute observer. I mean, in some ways, you can just say he's acutely observing that the 19th century, for all its rationalism, also had a ton of superstitious beliefs. You have someone like Conan Doyle, who actually was totally into kind of spirit photography and stuff like that. And pictures of fairies at the ends of gardens was. The creator of something like a Sherlock Holmes was deeply into this stuff. And you interested, like, what is this one of these things of where religion falls off and science is rising, but there's this weird kind of all the spiritualism and occultism, which still flourishes today, kind of swoops in there. It's hilarious that at the end of this, she gets a prediction from Madame Fontaine, which isn't a good one. It's basically one that says, yeah, you're going to get everything you want, but then more vultures are going to come and they're going to murder you for your riches. And at the end of all that, in the next chapter, as La Chabot walked off down the street, she made of what all clients make of any sorts of consultations. She accepted every part of the prophecy which sated her purposes and discounted the predictions of misfortune. So yes, it's got that whole thing of you think even like I guess honest predictors of the future. It's like, yeah, just tell them what they want to hear. That's the stuff that they're actually going to accept and stuff like that. So that's where I am with Cousin Pons. It's strange. I was talking yesterday about A Christmas Carol, and there is scenes in A Christmas Carol where Scrooge finds out about his the future of his death, and all the vultures kind of picking his corpse, and it's like, well, this is a whole book of people who are trying to pick Cousin Pons' corpse, trying to pick he's amassed all this kind of wealth. And what's it got him? It's got him all these people kind of creeping around him, basically wishing him to die so that they can get his stuff. So it's sort of, I don't know if it feels like a bit of an anti-Christmas Carol at the moment. As I said, I'm on the 21st. I'm going to start listening to Jason's reading of A Christmas Carol. So maybe that shows you where I'm weighted on the scale. I wouldn't think of myself as a sentimentalist, but I guess I am, especially around Christmas, where I want a little bit of cheer, a little bit of warmth. I'll take my Dickens over my Balzac. But that said, he's an interesting writer. He may just be a writer whose interests, whose obsessions don't quite jibe with my personality, or my own melancholy. I don't need his on top of it. Yeah. So that's all I have for this Friday Reads, this final Friday Reads, as I repeat myself again and again. More videos later.